go ahead and get started. So those of you, if I've not met you before, I'm Garen Stout. I am the Director of Client Success with Oasis Solutions. We started working with Cloud at Work about 3 years ago. Just kind of found that we had a hole in some of our cloud strategies with some of our customers with Sage 100. And so we met Tyler and started working with him and his team, and just have had some great success with moving quite a few of our Sage 100 clients into the cloud environment. So one thing with Sage is it is an on-prem software. So for clients who are looking to get rid of the servers in-house, it has been a wonderful option for them, and we have had great success with that. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler and let you get started.
Thank you so much, Garen. And apologies to everybody on the call. I'm battling a cold, so I apologize if I don't seem very chipper and enthusiastic. Apologies. Today we're going to talk about some different trends happening within the cyber arena, and really what in my conversations with business leaders and application leaders, what they're dealing with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And then also going to share with you, just being in the business for 15 plus years, I have a lot of stories, as does every other IT veteran. So I'm going to share with you a couple of those stories just to give you perspective. And then as well, going to share with you some of the Cloud at Work solutions that maybe are a little bit different than what you remember and have changed to really help this new world, if you will, of IT security and cloud computing. So my name is Tyler Bauer. As I am the practice director for Cloud at Work. I helped start the organization back in 2017, and we were founded exclusively for one purpose: to help Sage end users navigate cloud infrastructure as well as IT consumption across their entire business. So if you're using Sage in any capacity, our mission is to be that guiding light and to help you from a security standpoint, an IT service standpoint, cloud infrastructure standpoint, not just for your Sage application, but across your entire business. And we feel we can do that better, faster, stronger than everyone else out there. Little background on Cloud at Work. So we started the organization by doing what we call now VPC at Work. And what that solution is an accredited cloud platform purpose-built for Sage applications. Now, in about 2020, we began working directly with Sage and their executive teams to get accredited. So we actually are the only accredited platform for 100, 300, X3, HRMS, fixed assets, 500 in North America, so both in the US and Canada. The reason we exist is because there's a lot of enterprise cloud organizations out there, or infrastructure companies out there. However, I feel it's a big mistake to have a vendor or a layer in your business that doesn't understand the applications that you're using. And when you looked at cloud organizations who were focused on hosting Sage applications back at that time, there was a lot who weren't focused on security, availability, and redundancy. And we knew how important that was going to be in the new frontier in the future. So quick stat, and we have a whole bunch of really cool cool data sets across this presentation, but on average, there's a cyber attack every 11 seconds. And 74% of those data breaches are a result of human error. Now, I know AI is really cool, and we got cars that can drive themselves now. It's super cool. But we're all human. We're all going to be intrigued. We're all going to want to click on something. We're all going to plug something in when we shouldn't. We're all going to not read the fine print. We're human. And no matter what we do, we're going to make mistakes. But it's super important to put our business and our organization in a position where we're not vulnerable. At the same time, where we're prepared that people are going to make these mistakes and do everything we can to avoid them. So the business impact of those mistakes are that 40% of effective organizations are forced into downsizing their workforce based on these security threats. And 72% of businesses worldwide affected by ransomware attacks, 72% of businesses worldwide have been affected by ransomware attacks as of 2023. 70% of those organizations have users being served malware ads on their browsers. So on a daily basis, these things are just living and breathing within our networks. And so doing nothing is not an answer anymore. So why is cybersecurity such a hard problem to solve? Well, there's a global shortage of talent. And so when you look at just the overall presence of cybersecurity globally, you have threat actors, white hats, and black hats, right? Black hats not being so nice, and the white hats, are employed by organizations or the goodness of their heart or government agencies building kind of that wall, if you will, to help protect citizens or employees or vice versa. What does that leave for private industry? Not a lot, right? There's obviously more talent coming up through the ranks and more emphasis being put on training and as well as certing out in certain areas, but all of the best of the best is being swooped in by either bad actors or actual government agencies using it to protect nations and using it to protect IP and actual actual items of the countries, not necessarily just private companies. And so in that theory, right, AI has uh, really come up in the past 2 years. And so just having AI involved, not only just from, our daily lives of using Chat GPT and so forth, but from an attacker standpoint, using AI for, recognition, both face and voice, being able to insert AI into volume-based automation, being able to target easier based on so much data being available, and just really being able to hone in on those vulnerabilities without exuding human energy and just having algorithms and AI on the back end doing all of that hard work. It's really become a big problem. And so what this has created is an actual economy. And so if you guys don't have never heard of this, but I'm sure you've heard of SaaS, right? Software as a service, or I'm sure you've heard of infrastructure as a service, IaaS. There's an entire industry that's called RAS, or ransomware as a service. And what these companies do is they actually produce qualified leads to hacking organizations. So now, as an organization looking to find compromised credentials or weak RDP access and all these different things, now I can just outsource that, almost like a lead gen agency. And these companies are out there constantly just probing and looking at how they can infiltrate organizations. And uh, it's really a big problem because now you have people focused on multiple ends of the funnel. I mean, we all are in sales at some level of the funnel, right? So think about having an entire economy just focused on finding and identifying organizations, so that way hacking organizations, threat actors can do what they do best. Scary stuff. So the sales funnel is even defined, right? Having 2,500 potential targets with 60 encounters, 20 successfully compromised will result in one victim. So now you can monetize that economy and insert AI to automate all of that. It's really just a dollars and cents play at that point. So as as we start to mature ourselves and mature our footprint and mature our overall stance in security, it's important to know that the threats around us are 5, 10 steps ahead probably of what we're even thinking about doing within our own business. And when you insert AI, the premise of, oh, I'm too small, that will never happen to me, or big enough to be a target. When AI is involved, everybody's a target because it's so easy to just throw and cast that net super wide. And, attacks are very similar. So it's not usually this. There, I have examples and I'm going to share some with you, but it's not always a very targeted attack. It's ransomware is very much about let's find people who aren't taking the proper steps in their business and exploit them and create vulnerabilities. So when we think about the top security threats for businesses today, obviously the human factor is number one. Ransomware is number two, and business email compromise is number three. So being able to be confident within your email communication, having, technology as well as maybe SOC and SIM behind, looking at the email communications coming through, flagging whether or not that's an outside link and whether or not you should click on it. It makes all the difference when talking about employee interaction. As well, by doing just that, you're actually going to slice in half the opportunity for ransomware to take hold within your organization. But as well, there are other ways to protect, and we'll talk about those in a minute, around ransomware, around creating gaps and vulnerability gaps and filling those gaps with different types of solutions. And the human piece is always going to be the most difficult piece, but it requires just emphasis, training, and consistency. If people know that they're accountable for their actions and the way that they behave, you'd be shocked at the behavior changes and as well just the overall competency of the employees as it grows. So business email compromise, basically, it's a phishing website, and it's very easy to execute any type of email attack. It's to basically gain access to a legitimate email address and then begin sending phishing emails from that. And what that does is it just keeps building and building and building on one another. And then as well, you can expand not only just through email, but through other avenues like social media and so forth. And it just keeps building and building and building on each other. Insert AI into that, and it just never stops. How many people, have Facebook and have heard, oh, my account's been hacked, and they want you to buy a 2007 Honda Civic for $1, right? So it just all those things are happening. Those are kind of silly and obviously just like, wow, that's crazy. I would never click on that, but some of them, as I'll share with you, are actually quite sophisticated and pretty scary. So the first example that I'm going to share with you is actually one of our customers. Um, I've I've known this company for a very long time, and essentially what happened. This is an example of uh, what we call spear phishing. So the CFO of the organization had a laptop, and that laptop was taken home. And when you take a laptop home and plug it in to an unsecured network or a home Wi-Fi, you're always opening up susceptibilities of the devices connected to it and access to it. So by connecting it through public Wi-Fi's or at a Panera Bread or a Starbucks, you're at risk of having an unsecured connection to possibly a fake network where now the threat actor has access to that device completely. And in this case, the CFO did that. And now there was what was called a keylogger put onto his device. So as he plugged back into the corporate network, now different access points across the network were were had based on his capability or his permissions, which being the CFO, he has a lot of permissions in the organization. The next place that they resided was within their financial application, Sage. And the way that they got into that was they watched and had logs of the actual key logger going in. So username, password were completely compromised. And once they had that, they even sat in that system and looked and watched for what types of transactions happened, when they happened, who they happened with. And then until they found their absolute target, which was a very, I would say, not technically savvy organization who would receive large invoices, and I won't say the amount, but quickly they created an email with through the CFO's account, sent that email to the customer requesting payment of a very large amount, an invoice, and the banking information, but the banking information was of the threat actor. The customer quickly paid that invoice and then reached out directly to the executive team asking for confirmation. And when the executive team had no idea, that's when the flags got set off. Now, a couple of things to talk about here and why this is so unique. The first is they sat in that system for over a month and a half and did nothing. They waited. So thinking that, oh, I clicked on this link and nothing happened, and nothing's going to happen, that's a naive perspective. A lot of times threat actors will sit and wait and identify and figure out ways to spawn or build off of the host that they've infiltrated. The second interesting thing is just overall capability of, a very common habit now is taking devices home, right? Or even working from home. And so if we're not taking the steps properly to secure our tools as well as our devices, it can get very, very difficult to operate confidently a business in 2024, 2025. And third is the overall awareness or monitoring of the system. And that was the big priority coming out of the conversation with the customer was we wanted to be able to prevent this in the future. And the only way to do that was to have eyes and ears monitoring the transactions and monitoring the network constantly, looking for inconsistencies and looking for potential threats, and then thwarting those threats. So them not taking a proactive stance, as well as thinking that they were fine, that they were too small or maybe not the right kind of company, it can happen to anybody. So super, super scary stuff, and just an example of spear phishing. So when we look at ransomware, ransomware talks about multiple different pieces, but really what it is it's a way for me to encrypt or take care or encrypt or take over subsets of data, access to a certain application, access to whatever. So that way you are crippled as an organization, and I now hold the keys to to your access back into that thing of importance. Um, the in most cases of ransomware, um, if you have usable backups off-site or on a separate network, or if you have a disaster recovery plan, or maybe you have EDR or XDR in place, these can be remedied pretty quick. However, you'd be shocked at the tools like Datto and other types of on-prem devices that companies feel are very, very secure and as well very consistent in their backup capability, only to find that in the actual scenario that when their entire network is affected, that those devices are pretty much useless. So certainly if you have a plan in place and you're not testing it, please test it. It is super important to avoid that. Avoiding ransomware is probably the easiest step in cybersecurity readiness. Most of these things are kind of just head scratchers where you're like, man, we should have prioritized that. You kind of feel like, man, I could have done some more there. The spear phishing pieces, those are a little bit more targeted and a little bit harder to track, but with ransomware, these are mostly avoidable. So I'll give you an example of another example of ransomware. So we had a company uh, who was in a very highly regulated industry, and they had infrastructure in cloud at work, infrastructure in AWS, infrastructure in Azure, doing a lot of really great stuff, super prioritized, valued security, looked at all these different pieces. However, there was this outlier piece of infrastructure that was old and unpatched, sat on a network and was connected to the network in a remote location. It was an old Exchange server, and it had no purpose, but it was connected to the actual network. So through that 2003 server that was unpatched and just forgotten about, even though all of the cyber stance and footprints and everything was very very upper right hand corner, um, that one device took down a company completely and rendered them completely paralyzed for, I think, about 2.5 weeks. Now, at Cloud at Work, with their Sage application that we were working with, we were able to get them up and running within 3 hours. So very very proud of that. So they were able to run their Sage application very quickly. However, the rest of their network had to be rebuilt from scratch. And because we took some incremental backups as well as did different pieces for them, we were actually able to help them restore their local AD or Active Directory, which probably saved them 2 or 3 weeks in the restoration. But the rest had to be re-architected and redeployed. And what this is an example of is just having that one piece of hardware that just goes forgotten, right? Goes unpatched. Nobody thinks anything of it. And before you know it, it's a vulnerability taking down a massive deployment across multiple cloud platforms as well as on premise. Completely avoidable. Completely could have been avoided. Um, just when you have central IT managing 5 different vendors who are all accountable towards different pieces, that's where you can start to have different types of challenges. So it's good to have kind of advisors in each sector. It's good to have not all of your eggs in one basket, but certainly if you have too many eggs in the basket, that can be a challenge as well. So enough of the doom and gloom. And I thank you for bearing with me through my cold presentation. I appreciate it. But I want to share with you kind of what we're doing at Cloud at Work to help mitigate that. So we're all about speed, skills, scale, and spend. We want to focus on those things for our customers because we feel those are the four pieces that really resonate um, with where they're taking their business. And Sage is in our DNA. I mentioned that our mission statement is to create the absolute best experience for Sage end users in the cloud as well as IT consumption. Our VPC at Work product, as I mentioned, is a virtual private solution purpose built for your Sage application. Now, in all those security examples that I showed, not once was our customer's Sage application vulnerable, and not once was any of the data compromised, and not once did we miss our SLA with any of those customers, even though it was outside of our purview or our fault. we were able to tremendously help the customer stay operational within the Sage application. And we do that. The reason of what makes us so different is that we try to reduce the layers for our customers. So if you remember, I was just talking about a customer who used AWS and Azure and Cloud at Work and had on-prem. It can get a little confusing, but if you're even just looking at moving Sage to the cloud, let's say you're looking at Azure or AWS, most companies don't understand that that can happen very easily, but AWS and Azure aren't going to manage your environment for you. They're not going to give you best practices in security. They're not going to give you any type of patch schedule or any type of support. They're there to give you options for consumption, and typically companies who deploy there will need some type of management company to help them. Then you have your publisher, Sage, and then you have your business partner, Oasis, and then you have yourself, the client. At Cloud at Work, we work exclusively with the business partner. So Cloud at Work and Oasis are one. And when you combine Oasis and Cloud at Work, you have Cloud at Work platform, you have Cloud at Work as the management organization. We're the only accredited Sage platform in North America, and we're completely integrated, directly tied in, ticketing systems connected to Oasis. So that way, when you, the client, have a problem, we're very easily able to not just notate that problem, but we're able to bring you back solutions completely around your Sage application. These are just a few stats of our Cloud at Work solution for Sage. Certainly, we'll make sure that you get access to these slides, but our solution is tried and true. We have about 800 customers on Cloud at Work platform now, individual Sage end users, and very much a part of their daily lives of using Sage and growing their cloud footprint within their business. This is a quick look at some of our data centers. We have 4 currently, so 2 in Philadelphia, 1 in Texas, and 1 in Ontario. And then as well, we started our company really focused on this solution, VPC at Work. And very quickly, our customers were asking us, hey, Tyler, look, you did such a great job with Sage when we were in this security scenario. How can I expand security services across my entire business with you guys? You guys really know what you're doing. And so we have now a cybersecurity as a service that is very, very affordable and easy to maintain and easy to insert into your business if that's something you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody to help you build a plan, build action items, help you monitor, maintain, and manage, we can certainly help you there. And really, it boils down to looking at the XDR as well as the SOC and collecting, detecting, and responding. And we can go through a very, very detailed example with you on that if that's something of interest. This is actually really, really interesting. So when you look at the Cloud at Work cybersecurity solution, we did a lot of measuring, a lot of data collecting on this. But if you're doing nothing and there's an identity theft resolution that's typically 3 to 4 weeks, it actually, if you had our solution in place, that would take 1 to 2 hours to maintain compared to 3 to 4 weeks. Malware, 3 to 4 weeks, less than an hour. Insider threat resolution, 3 to 6 months, less than 4 hours, right? So all these different examples, I'm really proud of this because it showcases the hard work of all of my fellow Cloud at Workers and really the solutioning and the pride that we put into measuring our KPIs and measuring ourselves, not just against our KPIs, but against KPIs that impact your business when you're in the worst of situations. So really, really impactful. A lot of our customers as well are looking at us to become their full IT service provider. So that is a new offering that we've had for the last year and a half now, where we're actually operating not only as their security arm as well as their cloud infrastructure arm, but actually can provide the um, full IT managed service arm for your organization as well, and it's super competitively priced. We have a solution called DaaS at Work, which is desktop as a service, which is a proprietary tool that we've built within Azure that gives you all different types of feathers in the cap around security and access and centralized management. It also gets you out of buying physical computers, which is very, very big for a lot of companies that I'm talking to. So when you look at secure IT and you look at really the journey that Cloud at Work can help you in, you can move your Sage to Cloud at Work in the Sage accredited cloud platform. We can help you virtualize the rest of your infrastructure within Azure, and we can build that in a cost scaling model based on your business. We can give you next generation access tools like virtual desktop that we've purpose built from the ground up to integrate directly into your Sage as well as the rest of your infrastructure. And then we can wrap managed services and security services around that entire deployment and give you a full scope as well as a full IT SLA back to you as an organization, guaranteeing you business success and guaranteeing you that in that next cyber interaction that you will not be in a vulnerable position and that you've taken those steps necessary to prepare your company and prepare your organization. So for a limited time, we're actually offering a few incentives. So if you migrate to Cloud at Work and the virtual private cloud, your migration is 50% off. And from this is a Oasis and Cloud at Work piece only, but we also want to give you the first 4 months, up to the first 4 months for free. So that way you have a chance to try it out, see that what we're saying is on par, and make sure you guys can feel the impact for the rest of your business. I want to thank you guys for your time, and Garen, I'll pass it back to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining today. If you have any questions or want more information, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to talk with you about Cloud at Work and our partnership there. We'll also be sending a recording of this webinar, so you'll get a recording of that if that's something that you're interested in looking at afterwards. So thank you very much.